Alright, hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because in today's video, what we're talking about is JEPQ and SVOL. We're not putting them head to head, but instead we're using them with each other because one of our amazing subscribers here, big shout out to Magdalene777. I hope I'm saying that right. You are the star of today's video because you said, I found SVOL and JEPQ was a powerful combination. Both pay high dividends, but maintain share price or experience capital appreciation. I think high yield is great so long as you aren't losing capital. So what we're going to do in this video, that is a great suggestion, both JEPQ and SVOL. And by the way, guys, if you have any other suggestions, be like Magdalene777 and put them in the comments, and you will also be a star of a video. I love looking at different combinations. This is why we have this amazing community. Please do subscribe. We're up to 3,649 subscribers because with this community, we get great suggestions like Magdalene said, and then I'm able to share them with you guys. So if you have any, comment down below. But today we're talking about JEPQ versus SVOL. And what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to talk a little bit about each, what they do. We're going to compare how they've kind of performed over the past year or so. I'm going to actually show you their dividend dates, when they pay and when they go ex-dividend, to see how we could use them to compound our kind of money multiple times in a month. And I'm also just going to tell you, yeah, exactly what they do. So without further ado, let's get into it. I actually want to start with SVOL because I do believe SVOL is a little bit more complicated, and I want to explain to you that briefly. So SVOL, SVOL, Simplified Volatility Premium Income ETF by Simply ETFs. Now, currently, they have a stock value of about $23 or so. Over the past year, just taking a look, we could see they've maintained relatively flat. Sure, there's some periods where they did dip down to the $21 level. We see that again, $21.50, but they've maintained relatively flat while paying a 17% dividend, which is very well. We look over the long term, they did have a down period because this is when kind of like all stocks were trending down in 2021 into 2022. But since then, they've maintained flat or relatively had small relative appreciation. Now, SVOL, what they do, this is going to be very confusing, but I'm going to read it to you anyways, and I'll explain after. The Simplified Volatility Premium ETF, SVOL, seeks to provide investment results before fees and expenses that correspond to approximately 1/5 to 3/10, so 20% to 30%, the inverse of the performance of the co-volatility index, the VIX, short-term futures index, while also seeking to mitigate extreme volatility. So basically, SVOL shorts the VIX. They short the co-volatility index. The VIX, I pulled it up here. And if you're still confused, no worries. So this negative here and this negative here is to show that they short the VIX. They want the VIX to go down. They want the VIX to remain down. And what the VIX does is the VIX actually measures volatility. You'll notice here in 2008 when we had that massive market crash, you can see the VIX here jumped all the way up to 60. The VIX relative, SVOL wants the VIX to stay under 30 because that shows that there's low volatility in the market. And when volatility is low, you're going to have a smaller VIX. Now you can see 2008, there was obviously a pretty big run up. And then also during COVID, when there was that massive COVID sell-off, the VIX jumped to 65. But for the most part, the VIX stays under 30 and SVOL is happy when that's happening. And so they short the VIX and they generate small amounts of income from, I assume, what do we have here? I'm pretty sure they are options that they do here. The fund short a VIX position provides investors an optimized exposure for monetizing the premium in the VIX futures market. A modest option overlay budget is then deployed into VIX call options, so they do write calls, to help protect against adverse moves in the VIX. So that is pretty much what SVOL does. It is still pretty confusing, even to myself to this day. I do have a video that better explains it. I could link it at the end of this video. But SVOL, in short, they short the VIX. They want the VIX to stay below 30, and they make an option premium on that. And they do pay about a 15 to a 17% dividend. One thing to note is that their dividend actually did get cut a few months ago from 32 cents down to 30 cents. I'm not sure if it looks like they've stayed relatively flat at 32 cents for the most part. They were all over the place, but that dividend cut might have just come out of the blue. So that's one thing to think about as well. Okay, now we're talking about JEPQ. So JEPQ is the JPMorgan Nasdaq Equity Premium income ETF. So what this ETF does is basically the JPMorgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF seeks to deliver monthly distributable income and Nasdaq 100 exposure with less volatility. So basically, they write calls on the Nasdaq 100 here. So basically, they're pretty much long the Nasdaq 100. Their stock performs with the Nasdaq 100, but on top of that, they also experience some dividend yields. Now, when I was going to their yield, it says nothing here on the Nasdaq website, but going to Yahoo Finance, gotta love Yahoo Finance, it's about 10.77%, so about an 11% yield. So you're taking basically a 17% yield from SVOL and an 11% yield from JEPQ. Now, this fund over time should perform fairly well. They are both relatively new, with JEPQ coming in 2022 and then SVOL coming in 2021. Now, with these two funds, what is so great about them is that look at their ex-dividend dates. So we have an ex-dividend date of roughly the 26th to the 27th of the month. And then we have a payable date just before the month ends. So it could be the 29th, could be the 30th, the 31st. But then looking at JEPQ, we could take the dividends from SVOL and invest them directly into JEPQ, with the ex-dividend date being on the 1st and then the payment date being on the 6th. Now, of course, you could find some dividends in between the 6th and the end of the month, like the 26th, to reinvest your JEPQ dividends. But that is why the strategy is pretty interesting. And really, there's no wrong answer when having a dividend strategy, because everything is different and everyone's kind of circumstance is different too. So some people might like a lower dividend, like in JEPQ, with kind of a 10-11% dividend, or a higher dividend like SVOL at 15-16%, which is still really good, while holding capital appreciation. So if you guys did enjoy this little video where we compared JEPQ with SVOL and then mashed them together, and we made a little bit of a dividend compound here, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. This was kind of just a little video where we explain what SVOL is, what JEPQ is, and we show how you can use their dividends to compound into each other and just produce a pretty good dividend income at the end of the month, with keeping your capital appreciation relatively flat. When you're dealing with these high dividends like 11 and 15%, it's generally pretty difficult to keep your capital flat, but these two premium ETFs definitely do a really good job at doing that. So that is something to potentially put on your watch list and keep in mind when you are investing. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Please do remember to subscribe and join our page if you are interested in anything high dividends. Also, comment, be like Magdalene777, and let us know what your strategy is when it comes to dividend. So are you in JEPQ? Are you in SVOL? Or are you guys in the Yield Max funds? Are you guys in Clip? Let me know down in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to you. I hope you guys do take care. Have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next one.